Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and they're going to share some very exciting information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness in the use of email management, then you've come to the right place. Our special guest today is Randy Dean. Randy has been speaking professionally for over 20 years, and the content that he primarily speaks on is time and email management using the latest technologies. He's based out of Lansing, Michigan, and his latest bestseller on Amazon is called Taming the Email Beast. Randy, welcome to the show.
Great to be here today.
And we're glad to have you. I'd like to kick off the show by asking you if you could tell the listeners a little bit about your business and how you help your clients become more effective.
Sure thing. What I basically do is I go all over the United States, Canada, and sometimes Europe to basically any organization that is looking to help their staff or their members get better and smarter with managing their email, managing their time, managing their clients, their projects and activities, using popular software tools like Microsoft Outlook and or the Google Productivity Suite, including Gmail. I also do some training on how to set up and better use your smartphones and tablet devices with the primary goal of just giving people some tips and techniques they can use pretty much right away to increase productivity, find extra time, and reduce distraction.
What are some of the biggest distractions and time wasters that you find with your clients?
Well, basically, people are living in a plague of distraction right now. I think that with the way the world has changed itself in the last 20 or 30 years, we moved from being a paper-based workplace environment to an electronic-based workplace environment. And with the advent of email, that was the beginning of this, but it's not the end of this. Obviously, we've got email, we've got text messaging, we've got social media, we've got smartphones and tablets trying to get your attention on a moment-by-moment basis.
Right.
And so if you don't have good, smart strategies on how to manage all of this, because you need to use it, you need to be there, but if you don't have good strategies, you could basically spend your entire day being completely distracted and not getting much anything done.
Man, yeah, that's so timely and so relevant, the services that you provide. I just think about my personal email. After a while, I just stopped going through and deleting just random things that I never asked for. It's not even spam, but it's it's that gray area. And so with my Gmail, last year I had 19,000 email messages unread that were that I didn't need to open, and I finally cleaned those out, and now I'm back up to 15,000. So how do you what are some of the strategies that you have your clients employ to manage this?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up. There's an immediate one just from what you just said. One of the things that I recommend is that people go 3 wide with their email. And when I say that, basically I want you to divide up your email according to the type of email it is. I recommend almost everyone have a primary work account, and that work account is dedicated for work and work only for your clients, customers, coworkers, vendors. Do not give that email address to those evil, devious family and friends. Because if your family and friends get your work email, they're going to, of course, send you, jokes, junks, JPEGs, and YouTube video links.
Right.
And so you want to keep that stuff out of your work so when you're at work, you can focus on work. Have a personal account for your family and friends that you look at on your personal time. And then here's a bit of a unique strategy. Have a third account for all of your internet-based transactions. Anything you're doing on Amazon or eBay, signing up for a new social media conduit, and or downloading that free podcast or report. Don't give them your work or your personal, because that's where a lot of the junk and spam tends to get generated from. And, of course, if you have it coming into your primary or your personal inbox, it's going to clutter everything up and make it hard to find the stuff you really want.
Right.
And so I actually recommend you do a third account where all of that information goes. And it's a good strategy because about 82% of all emails now sent globally are either junk or spam. So that's a starter strategy, is to divide it up.
Right.
And then a second strategy, coming back to your work account, is then to get yourself on a triage mentality where you use your inbox for processing, not for decision making. See, a lot of people are trying to use their inbox like their daily task list, but it's not built for that. And so when you try to use it that way, you tend to keep reading the same emails over and over again. And so what I teach in my programs is a strategy where what you do is if emails come in, if they're quick, you handle them right away. Something takes a minute or two, you get that one done. If it's not quick, then you figure out what the task or the event is inside of it and put that on your calendar or task list. And then once you do one of those two actions, either get it done or get it on your calendar or task list, then you either file that email for later reference or you delete it. And that's how you can keep your primary work inbox down close to zero.
Okay, very good information. I'm taking notes here. Now, what are some of the popular misconceptions that your clients have about what you do, and how do you dispel those?
Well, yeah, I think one thing that I've seen pretty commonly is that a lot of people don't realize how much time is being lost using things like email and instant messaging and social media. I think that they assume that people are getting to productivity, but the evidence is showing that anywhere from 2 to 4 hours per workday is being lost due to distraction because of all of these inputs that are hitting people. And almost no one's had training. I've been out on the road for, like I said, professionally in private practice for the last 11 years, and I've been asking this question over and over again. How much time are you spending on email every day? And I get typically anywhere from 2 to 5 hours per day for most of the professional audiences I speak at, which means 25 to 50% of a workday is spent just doing email. Then I ask this follow-up question. How many of you have had formal strategic level training on how to manage your email? And what I'm seeing consistently is about 1 to 3%. I actually did a session down in Florida a couple of weeks ago with about 500 people in the room, and only 4 people raised their hand. So this tool has taken as much as 25 to 50% of their workday. Only 1 to 3% have had training on how to use it. And that's just one source of input that could cause distraction. So, I'm seeing a plague of distraction and people in decision-making capacities in companies not really understanding how much it's truly costing them in terms of productivity and profit.
Just taking a step back, how did you end up in the space that you're in now? Where did you start? What's your background?
Well, I started out as a direct marketing professional, as the subscriber and services coordinator for the Scientific Journal Advances back in Kalamazoo in the early 90s. Then I went and got my MBA at Michigan State, and then followed that with a couple of years in the corporate headquarters of Procter & Gamble as a market research supervisor on the Prilosec project. And then I spent some time at Michigan State University in a professional capacity as their director of admissions for their full-time MBA program. And basically what I saw in each of these places was the emergence of distraction, and primarily email as a key distraction source that was getting in the way of people being able to keep their focus, get their work done. And I had been formally trained in my first job on classic time and project management strategies. And so when I looked at that training and basically did some adoption from some of those principles that I learned into the new electronic world, and that sort of opened up the opportunity. And when I was at Michigan State, I basically realized that there's a whole lot of other people that could really use this kind of information, these kinds of strategies to help them manage their distraction and keep their focus and get their work done. And that was the basically the impetus for starting the business.
Okay. What are 2 or 3 problems, real or perceived, that your clients have, or that you're able to help your clients solve in the areas of email and productivity?
Well, as we mentioned before, one is that they just really don't understand how much time the average professional is losing each and every day just because of these distractions. And so, having these strategies, I can share these strategies with people to allow them to get back to having more time that can be focused on more valuable effort. So that's one key place that I can really help. And then the other thing that I do, which is sort of unique, there's a lot of people that are what I would call so-called time management speakers, but they tend to talk in big picture platitudes, and they don't get into the down and dirty. And one thing that's been sort of unique about what I do is when I do my programs, I actually open up working versions of Microsoft Outlook, Gmail, and the Google Productivity Suite, and I show people exactly how to do it in the software that they're using. You know, and I think that that's one of the critical factors is that not only am I giving them some of these big picture strategies that they can use, but then I get down into the dirty details of the software that people are using on a regular basis and actually show them how to do some of these time-saving tips that allows you to be very efficient at some of the strategies we talked about. You know, one of the things I show in both Outlook and Gmail is how you can convert your emails into task items or calendar items, how you can quickly save contact information from an email, how you can take emails that you tend to send over and over and make them push buttons so that you can just hit a button and send the reply versus having to retype the same message again and again. And so, you know, I actually had one client that found that the attendees that were attending my session were saving on average a little bit more than 2 hours per person per week. That's pretty powerful information. Then adding to that, a couple of years ago, I rolled in a new training session on how to set up your smartphones and tablets so that they can pretty much do everything your laptop's doing. And I've even had a couple people that have said, boy, maybe we shouldn't even use laptops or desktops anymore. We could just flip to a hybrid situation. So that gives you a feel for some of the solutions that I'm providing for the clients.
Okay. Now, what are some of the main reasons that prospects decide not to utilize your service? Is it price, time commitment?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that's out there is that people just simply don't understand how much productivity they are losing from their staff because of these issues. You know, they don't really understand that the statistics would indicate that there might be as much as 2 to 4 hours of additional productivity per employee per day. That's what's on the board. And yet they're assuming that the cost of doing a session with me, which when you think about it is super cheap, compared to the potential productivity gain they would get from their employees. The ROI on this, we did a calculation for, you know, that one client that was finding they were saving more than 2 hours per week. If you extrapolate that across the entire workforce, we found that the ROI on the session first year was around 2,000%. You know, so when you get a situation where you can invest $1 and get $20 back, it sure seems like anybody and everybody would want to do that.
Yeah. Because it's a one-time. Yours is a one-time hit, and then theirs is it's like an annuity that continues to pay.
Yeah, and you know the thing that's interesting about it, like I said, that's $1 and you get $20 back. That's every year. You know, so like you said, it's an annuity.
Right.
And the interesting thing is because of this, I've got 2 or 3 clients that I go back every year. Some of them multiple times every year because they've figured out the math and they realize and know it really works for them.
That's a very interesting and mind-boggling statistic. And then when you compound social media, there's employees in the workplace that are utilizing that for some for business and then some for a mixture. The numbers are staggering. The amount of lost productivity.
Although let me share a little interesting statistic with you that'll flip this on its head. Employees that occasionally go out and visit social media have been found to be more productive than employees that never use social media. But what was the key word I just said?
Occasionally.
You nailed it. See, if you're using it all the time, you're of course going to be completely distracted by it. You're not going to get much done. Yeah. But they found that actually people that occasionally do it, I think they basically have figured out that because they have a deeper and richer social life, they tend to be just generally more productive people.
It makes sense. I mean, you need some type of escape. And, back in the day, we would go outside and we'd take a walk or we'd go to a restaurant. So them actually going out on social media for, 5 or 10 minutes is actually, saves more time than taking a 45-minute walk.
Exactly. Yeah. And, I think that you just nailed it, is that occasional mind release, that occasional ability to let things clear and then restart. It has been shown to be a productivity enhance, or it's just you just don't want to be doing it every 3 to 5 minutes.
Right. Now, in your book, let's talk about that for a quick second. Are there any additional insights that you provide in your book other than what you've done?
Well, obviously, a book with 250 pages is going to be packed and loaded with a whole bunch of tips and strategies. The full name of the book is Taming the Email Beast, 45 Key Strategies for Managing Your Email Overload. Mm-hmm. And so obviously I've got 45 different things I came up with in that book. And what's interesting is the book, when it was published, was primarily focused on people using Outlook because that was the big picture in the game. But one thing I've done in the last 2 to 3 years is I've actually modified the live speaking program I do now to cover both Outlook and Gmail. Because so many different individuals and organizations have now started looking at Gmail, and I see both Outlook and Gmail as the big players in this sphere. But, what I've seen is people that are even using different types of email beyond those two get a lot out of it because they finally learn a good strategy for managing this stuff.
Okay. Now, my last question is, if you could leave the listeners with one thought so that if you don't get anything else out of this discussion, this is what I want you to leave you with, what would that be?
Okay, here's a bit of a crazy idea.
Okay.
Listen to this crazy idea, everyone listening. What I'd like you to do every day at the start of the day, before you even look at your email, is build a task list of the key things you need to get done today. Build that task list before you do your email. Then go do your email. But then throughout the day, every time that you're thinking about going to check your email, check your task list too. That simple act of checking your task list in conjunction with your email will change your strategy on how you manage your day so that you will be more project, task, and client focused instead of being so input focused. See, we're seeing a plague right now of people being so inbox focused that they're missing their key responsibilities because they're dealing with the crisis du jour. And so what I'm trying to encourage people is to just balance it a little bit by using your task list in conjunction with your calendar to figure out the best use of your time, and then use email as an input system on top of that.
Very, very powerful information. Now, Randy, if the listeners would like to contact you, learn more about your business and how you can help them, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I'll make them a nice little offer here. I've written about a baker's dozen of productivity articles and PDFs in electronic PDF form. If the listeners would like to get access to those as a good way to get introduced to me, all they have to do is send me an email, randy@randalldean.com. That's RANDALLDEAN.com. And just put PDF in the subject line. And then I will know that they wanted to get those PDF articles. Of course, they can visit my website, randalldean.com, with the same exact spelling as what I just did. And that's a good way to find out some information about me and my different programs that I lead, as well as some of my online e-learning options.
Okay, excellent. Randy, thank you so much for coming on the show. That was very powerful information that you shared with the listeners in regards to email and time management. I know that I got a lot out of it, and I'm going to change my strategy and go on Amazon and check out your bestseller there as well. I appreciate you coming on the show, and so do the listeners.
It's great being here today.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.